Hey friends, click the like and subscribe button below please. Today I want to talk about psychedelics and specifically my fear of doing psychedelics again. I'm quite stunned by how legitimately afraid I am about taking mushrooms or any kind of psychedelics again. I haven't done psychedelics in about a year, just about a year. I think it's possibly a little bit longer than a year, but right around a year. And the last time I did it, it was a very good day, and it was just a very good morning, and I just felt that it was appropriate to take it in the afternoon. I was in a good headspace. Since then, a lot of things have happened in my life, and this has been quite a tough year. It's been a tough year for me and my family, both actually and then just mentally, partly mentally, making it tougher than it needs to be just in my own mind. But I think that may be the reason I'm so scared to do it, but I'm not quite sure. I'm okay with my extremely cautious and prudent approach, given given what I know about psychedelics. Now, I don't take it lightly. I don't take it lightly by any means. So, although I generally don't like to be afraid and I want to be courageous, I'm being very cautious with my next trip because I know when every time you trip, every single time, if once you do it, assuming you do it at an appropriate dose, that's gonna get you to where you want to be, versus just what's called a microdose or that in between area where you're getting kind of high, but you're not meeting God. But once you take a certain dose, you're meeting God every time. And so if you knew you're meeting God, especially if you've met him before, and you see how loving he is, but also how tough he is too, quite tough. You would be scared, just like a child would be scared of meeting a loving and tough parent if that child knows that it's not doing what it needs to do. It's not living up to its standards, and I'm different than a child in that I have a lot more baggage, right? A lot more baggage on top of me that I'm carrying, and a child is much more aware of the things psychedelics teach you. They're more naturally aware in their waking life, and those things for an adult like me who has grown up in Western civilization, especially after a tough year, you get a lot of things piled onto that knowledge, and it becomes quite opaque and hard to see. Like a day after a trip, you think you know everything about psychedelics. You think that feeling will never go away. The feeling you get, the comfort, the ease, the kind of the push, the drive forward. And then a year later, you see that actually it's completely gone, and you just kind of have a hint of what was left. You just have a small hint of what was left over, and you want to return to that. You do want to return to it, but at the same time, you can be scared. You can be scared of returning to it. Now I'll chronicle how I approach that here. I'll chronicle my solution. I'm not saying I'm going to do it now or today or anytime soon. Personally, just the kind of person I am, I feel it'd be more prudent to do a little more work in my life before I take another trip. Just because when I meet God on that trip, I want to have a better state. I want to be in a better place. I also want to avoid the negative consequences of a trip. So you can have a very bad trip, right? You can have a very negative, dark trip. And I think that if you're in a dark state of mind, you can be more predisposed to having a dark trip. Now, you can mitigate a dark trip. You can mitigate a dark trip by having I don't know if the shaman's the right word, but a shaman or a mystic or someone to help you keep the bad forces at bay. But they have to actually know how to do that. They have to believe in it, and they have to be capable of doing it, keeping the evil forces at bay when you take a trip. But even if you're able to to keep the evil forces at bay, or even if you have somebody skilled at keeping evil forces at bay, or even if you yourself are skilled at keeping evil forces at bay for others when they're tripping, I think that there's still a risk, right? There's still a risk. And what you don't want to happen when you take psychedelics is you don't want to lose your mind. That would be a sad thing. Because if in my waking consciousness, now this could be a story and an illusion, but in my waking consciousness, I feel this body, this monkey, this entity, not who I really am, but this thing, this creature, I feel he's still, he's useful. He's not completely useless on this planet, and I'm working hard to make him more useful, more capable, more loving, more kind, a better person overall. So making him more attentive, more aware, more clear in terms of the understanding, more clear in terms of communication. There's a lot of work that can be done. There's a lot of work that already has been done. Tons of work by myself and by the community at large. And I think it's inappropriate to waste it. I think that's a true risk. It's a true negative downside, a very rational, real downside, right? You don't want to willy-nilly be taking people out of the fucking civilization that potentially could contribute to the civilization. From like, I mean, I'm talking more than just a tax-paying U.S. citizen. Like the idea, oh yeah, this guy's a income-producing tax-paying U.S. citizen. Yeah, that's true. But even beyond that, the overall value you're providing. Now, I think that's a generally prudent approach. So if I see somebody and they're about to take psychedelics and they're kind of a normal, reasonable part of society, some people depend on them, some people love them, and it's just beneficial to have them around versus not having them around. We don't want to willy-nilly fuck that guy up or fuck that woman up. We want to make sure that, after their trip, they're still functioning. We want them to be better, actually. We want them to be much better, and that's mainly what happens with psychedelics. But not always. Sometimes you don't get better. Sometimes you get worse. Sometimes you can lose your mind. Very rarely, now I don't want to be fear-mongering here, but sometimes you can lose your fucking mind completely. And I think it's possible that for some people, they could take psychedelics and it could be the worst thing that's ever happened to them in a sense. They could lose their mind completely and be gone. And then that monkey's useless now for a long time or maybe for the rest of that monkey's life. And that's sad. That's not what we want to do. That's not where we want to go. And I'm not saying I'm at risk of completely losing my mind, but that risk does still exist. And given that you know, given my training, my overall thrust in life thus far, thinking about risk and risk management, that's kind of what I've done in my career. That's what I've done in investing. Good investing is literally risk management primarily. So that's how I think. I think from a perspective of risk. I think from a perspective of prudence, of reasonableness, of caution, of conservatism. And it's so far it's served me reasonably well. Reasonably, not perfectly well. Those things could have been attenuated in some circumstances. Sometimes a little bit and sometimes quite a bit. And that attenuation may have helped me get towards my goals more. That attenuation may have been beneficial to me, but I didn't attenuate in that way. Things weren't attenuated in that way. Sometimes I took a very conservative approach on things, but that's a different topic. That's a discussion for a different video. That approach reasonably has served me well, and I bring it to my psychedelic practice. I bring it to everything because it just seems appropriate to do so until I have evidence otherwise. And I'm willing to abandon that. I'm willing to say certain domains maybe shouldn't be under the realm of prudence, of conservatism, of risk management, of reasonableness, maybe. But so far I haven't seen those domains. Even psychedelics, I think, need to be approached in a cautious and prudent way, a way that manages the risks of those drugs. The benefits are astounding and enormous. The benefits are unreal. The treasures that lie beyond those substances once you take them, they're the greatest treasures you've ever had. No stock, no crypto, no house, no investment, no career. Probably nothing can compare to the treasures you get when you when you when you're tripping hard on psychedelics and it's a good trip. It's, those treasures can't be plundered by anyone. Those treasures are eternal, and I want to experience them. I love experiencing them, and I want others to experience them. But at the same time, you don't want to fuck up the monkey. You don't want to fuck things up, because just you want to serve. You want to serve society. You just truly a true service approach where you just don't want to be taking monkeys out of society and making them lose their mind, especially people between like 20 and 50, 20 and 60 who are in a very productive stage of their lives. And so that's kind of why I'm hesitant. I'm quite hesitant to do it. I think there's a lot to lose, even though the probability of loss is small. There's a big potential. There's the potential of being completely taken out. There's the potential of reaching what Nassim Taleb calls an absorbing barrier, but he talks about it in the context of either physical reality or finance. But I'm talking about it in terms of the mind, an absorbing barrier in terms of the mind, where you get to a state where you're not going to come back from in this life. The risk of that is tiny. I agree, but it's there and it's real. And so I'm thinking about, my next trip, and it's probably not going to happen this year. I'm not going to take psychedelics this year again, but I surely must work on taking it next year. Now, if I go in the entire if I go all 2023 without taking it, that's bad, because there's a drive inside me to take it. I feel that it's important to take it again, and continue my journey. I think I'm just starting my journey out. I don't know shit. So I think that ending it here would be the wrong thing to do. But then, you know, yeah, there's not much more to say on that. Yeah, ending it here would be the wrong thing to do. So I think probably the approach I'm gonna have to take is to kind of tidy up my life a little bit, the things that are giving me anxiety in my life, tidy it up, and then see if I feel better about doing psychedelics then.